Okay, the next one we're going to look at is going to be the magic effect. We're going to have one that's is basically think of the where the ground has like a circular shape and then lights come up and go around it. We're going to use the magic effect pieces here inside of our folder called magic effect. The textures we'll do this one for like an edge. We're going to do kind of a gamey hard corner type pieces, not like soft or anything. We'll even do our dust glow is going to be kind of a square type shapes. And then the magic effect will kind of have like a gear, and then just on some of the edges will be a little glowy as it goes around. So this will be the first piece that we look at. So let's go ahead and go into our hierarchy and do create and particle system. And for this one, just like before, let's do 0, 0, 0. Now the only difference though is that on the Y going up, we want to make sure that we have it a little bit above the ground. So we'll do a 0.01. That way, when we put this piece in and we have it kind of laying on the ground, we don't want it flickering. So if we have to move it up a little bit more, we can certainly do that. The first thing we want to do now is just place in on the renderer for the material. We'll take our magic effect right there, and let's put it into our material slot. There we go. Now we have this piece right here, but this piece isn't, we're not going to actually do a billboard where it's looking at the camera. We actually want to do a different option. So on the render mode, do you see the one where it says billboard? You can actually do horizontal board. That means that it's going to place it horizontally on the ground. So instead of worrying about where it is in relation to the camera, it'll just be placed there. Now let's go ahead and go up to the top here. Our duration, we're going to uncheck looping. We don't want it to actually loop. We just want it to play through a certain amount of time. So when you take off looping, you can actually say you want it to play, for instance, 3 seconds. So it'll play continuously for 3 seconds and actually stop. Now, because we're doing this, that means that you're not going to see it until you actually press stop over here and then resimulate. When you click on the simulate, it'll play it, and then once you see the playback time hit 3, it's no longer playing anymore. Okay, so when you do start working with particles in this fashion, then you're going to find yourself having to hit stop, hit the simulate. You can pause it if you want, that way you can see it. You can keep simulating if you'd like to do it that way. Alright, so we'll go ahead and simulate once and pause, that way we can still see the shape while we're working with it. On the start, what we're going to do for our start delay is keep it how it is. The lifetime, we're going to say it's going to last for 1 second for the emitting on for the length of the piece to show. So within 3 seconds, we'll have each one of them spawning, which basically means, depending on how many we do for our emission, we'll have essentially one every second staying on screen. Alright, so the speed we definitely want to set to 0. We don't want it to actually move, we want it to be on the ground like that. We also want to make sure that our rotation side of it, we want to go ahead and give a random rotation to it. That way the pieces don't all start directly on top of each other, so we'll do that 0 to 360 right there. The start size, I'm actually going to make this one a little bit bigger. Let's see. Let's do start size, let's try about a 2.5 or so and see. Yeah, somewhere anywhere between 2. Yeah, we'll go for a 2.5, but anywhere in between 2 and 3 is probably a good range for it. And then just make sure that our emitter, our shape size is going to match that for the cone. Okay, so we have our start rotation, we have our color. Since this is a white shape, we're actually going to change the color to be whatever type we want. So I'm going to have kind of a little mystical blue looking shapes with it. And it's on an additive for the shader type, that's why you're kind of getting that glow effect with the overlap on it. Alright, the gravity and velocity inheritance, both of those are set to 0. We're also going to keep it with local because we want to be able to move it but not have pieces fall away with the movement. We want everything to stay right where it is, even if it was being moved. We'll go ahead and keep the max particles at 1000. And then inside of the emission for the rate, I actually just want to say we're going to put 3 every second. So we have a lifetime of 1 second of each particle lasting for 1 second. We have a total duration of 3 on it. Now, in the shapes part, if you notice, we don't want to do a cone. We don't want to actually have anything moving around. So remember, when you don't want stuff moving around, you just uncheck it. And that means it's all going to appear right within the same area right here, which is a good thing. That's actually how we want to keep this part of it in the same spot. Now we could stop and we can push simulate. And notice now we have a couple of pieces showing. We have kind of a neat little effect happening right through there. Alright, so go ahead and stop on this one. Actually, let me put it up there and then stop it here. Okay, so we're gonna change up the lifespan, the size over lifetime. That way, instead of being exactly the same size when it shows up, it'll have a little bit of variance to it. Alright, so we'll go ahead and I'm going to close the shapes roll out, and let's go over down to our size over lifetime and turn this one on. And for this one, let's go ahead and just go into it, and we're going to go, let me click on that particle system down there on the curve. We'll keep our biggest size will be 1, but our start size, let's go ahead and take the start size and take this down to, we'll take it down to about 0.7, somewhere close to around there. And I'm going to do a straight line, sort of straight line, and then we'll do a point right up here, somewhere around anywhere between the 8 to 9 mark. We'll just double click on that one and place one up there. Now remember, if you want to actually make a hard edged line, you can right click on any of these key points, and you can actually do flat, you can do broken, you can actually set your tangent type to straight or not. I could do the left tangent to linear, and then that would create a hard linear point. Same thing for this one. I could go in here and say right tangent linear. That's going to give me a nice straight solid line going from one point to the other. Alright, so now we could actually, we'll stop and we'll resimulate. And now notice we have this fun growing pattern as it goes up like that. So that's actually a fun little shape happening there. Alright, so the next thing we want to do, since we have that one, let's go ahead and add like one little extra part to it. It's going to be the rotation, and we'll do a rotation over lifetime, and then let's double check to see if it'll, yeah, there we go. So we'll have kind of a fun little rotation right there, and we could even take it maybe to around 20. Yeah, a little softer like that. I even take it to 10. Let's see if we can, there we go. So we'll do about 10 for the rotation of lifetime, and then also on the rate for the emitter right here, something we haven't done before is the burst amount. And the burst amount is actually just, it's basically the time that you want, like how long do you want something to wait before a certain set of particles gets created. Well, you could actually say, by clicking on the little plus button there, we could say that at the very start, we want one particle to burst. So that when you start, you're automatically going to start with a burst of 1. If you put in, for instance, if you said you wanted 10, when you simulate, all of a sudden you have 10 bursts right there at the beginning. So let's show you here again. So you get that whole really thick one because it just made 10 of them all in a row. So if you want one to start with guaranteed and you just want it to pop right at the very beginning, then you can do that, and it'll just make sure there was one for it. Alright, so we've got our basic first piece right there. We have our size over lifetime, which is kind of just creating that nice little gradual curve going up and through it. The render mode, remember, we're setting that to the horizontal billboard. That way it sits on the floor while it's sitting there. And then don't forget that our duration was set to 3 seconds, and we turned off looping, which meant we had to actually click our simulate to see our particle effect happening. Alright, so that's going to be the first piece, and we're going to build out the other two pieces here in just a little bit.